Are we alive now, Aya?
Yes, we are now live. Hello, Julia. I'm just going to adjust a little bit because this is a new location for me to be live streaming.
I like your new setup. Mine's always kind of super boring. I'm always in the same place all the time. But anyway, so how's everything going on there today?
Well, today is Bo's birthday, and he had almost an entire cheesecake. And he got his gifts, and he's very happy right now.
That's nice. Like, I feel like it's not that I don't like birthdays anymore, but I just feel like when you're a kid, it's more fun, and Bo's kind of still young, so it's like fun for him. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I don't like birthdays as an adult, but I just,
yeah.
Like, are you one of those people who looks forward to your birthday? Are you like, oh my gosh, it's my birthday? I don't know.
I don't hate my birthday. I'm not one of those people who, just because I'm not young anymore, I don't want people to know how old I am, or it's not like that.
Yeah,
but
I don't feel that way.
It's not the way it was when I was little, because there's no gift that somebody could give me that would change my life. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. It wasn't even like precisely a gift. It's just the whole idea that I feel like now, like, I don't want to hate on the whole millennial things, but it's like a lot of those kids grew up having like lavish birthdays, getting everything they wanted. And it kind of goes back to what Khalil Gibran said about how you shouldn't, consume more than you need. And I'm not saying people can't have a lavish birthday if they can afford it, but some people go into debt to do that. And I feel like they've grown up and they think that this is something that they are deserving. I mean, I don't want to hate on millennials, but there's just this mentality that adults deserve like all these things that kids have. And I feel like sometimes you need to just maybe make it about the kids a little bit more instead of just, I don't know, but that's off topic anyway.
Well, I think the younger you are, the more you're into that kind of stuff. Right now, I mean, I used to lavish my daughter with a lot of gifts, and well, yeah. I mean, I still do to a certain extent, but not the same way, and now she's starting to give me gifts. So
yeah, I think that's really good. Like, I think in a family where people are raised to understand like the value of money, like the kids will grow up, they'll have a job, they'll get their parents gifts, like they'll do things. And I don't want to criticize anybody because I personally, like, people thought I was criticizing people, but there is like this overconsumption in our culture. This is why people think it's normal to be in credit card debt or a national debt. Just what I'm saying is there are adults, like people that are maybe a few years younger than me, same age as me, and they think like on their birthday they're supposed to have this lavish party for them. Like they literally want people to do that for them, and they get upset like if somebody doesn't do that for them. And I just think like, I don't know, like I don't think that's always been the way it was. Like it's kind of a cultural change that I'm seeing, maybe not in other parts of the country, but I see this a lot in California. It's just like a very California thing. Like, it's funny because Californians say they have a lot of empathy for other people. They worry about other people, but on the same token, they're very, engrossed in their own lives. So I think this might be more of a California specific thing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't hate birthdays. Bo didn't have a party today. When he was little, he had parties, and he's 17 now, and he doesn't have to have a party. He did look out the window to see if anybody was coming because he knew it was his birthday. And he had parties before, but he was pretty happy with what he got, and he was pretty satisfied. So, I think there's a progression in life, and we go slowly to the point where, okay, another birthday is not a big deal, although we appreciate it when people remember.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I'm not saying forget people's birthdays, be rude to people. Okay, I guess it's just my own. Okay, I don't get upset if people don't do a lot of things for me on my birthday, but I have been criticized before if I don't wish somebody a happy birthday a specific way. Like, I've been chided by people in my life that I didn't wish them a happy birthday the right way, or I was busy that day and I didn't call them or send them a card and do this and that. Like, I'm not like thoughtful enough. Like, I've been told that several times, and I'm like, and it's not to be rude, but I actually had a friend who, because I'm sorry, there was something going on that day, and I guess I should have realized it was her birthday. Like, she called me out and said I wasn't thoughtful, and I didn't call her that day, but I'm a good friend in all other capacities. And I'm just like, well, so it's not that I hate birthdays. I've just had a few experiences where I was told I didn't do enough for somebody on their birthday, that somehow it devalued the friendship in some way.
Oh no, there's, you can't expect anybody to do any particular thing. And if they do not know when your birthday is or don't remember, that's not the biggest thing in the world. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go off on a tangent, but that's just like kind of been my experiences with birthdays. But I think they're nice, they're fun. There's nothing wrong with birthdays.
Well, Bo gets very excited. He sees the cake. He loves the cake. He loves the singing. He gets excited about that. And he likes opening his presents. And then after a while, he's done with the cake. For instance, this time he could have had the whole cake and he gave it back to me before finishing everything. So I think that shows a level of maturity. And, when he was done with his gifts, he gave them back to me so he could open another gift. And
Oh, that's nice. I think that he had a nice day then.
yes.
And I did see the pictures you posted on Instagram for Bo's birthday. That was pretty neat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I've been looking at that county.
I wasn't sure that had posted because it was going. No, that it's still going.
Oh, good.
It tells me that it hasn't uploaded the birthday picture yet.
Really? Okay, I can go back I can just go to Instagram because I've been looking at it more on the computer. I'm having some problems with Instagram on my phone, just behaving or doing what I wanted to do. But I thought I saw a picture. I can just screen share what I saw. Like,
okay.
It looks like it was something. Well, I thought I saw it. I thought I saw it. Maybe it was on. Oh, it was on your page. I guess. I'm sorry. I think it was on your page, your main page, something about his birthday. It wasn't the Vacuum County one. Oh man, that's kind of, yeah. It was a picture of a monkey that you bought.
Yeah, that was the gift. I was buying it for him yesterday, and so I shared. I said, "Don't tell Bo anything about it." I said that on my Instagram, but
yeah, I like
it. But I did a little video of him eating his cake. And it's still uploading. It's so slow.
I don't know. Instagram used to let me switch between accounts. I never had a problem, but then it started not wanting me to, and it would only let me log into one account on the app. And it was the one account that I didn't really want to post to that often, but it kept telling me this is my main account. This is the account that I'm supposed to be posting to the most. And I don't know why I decided that was the one account.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I can't get back to my main account anymore unless I'm on my phone and I just post one picture via my phone. Then I can post something. But it's like I've lost all my interactivity with Instagram. I can't see if people ever send me messages. Not that I got anything really that important, I guess. So like Instagram's become completely almost worthless to me at this point. So I have like my activity there has like kind of fallen off because of the issues I'm having with it at the moment.
Yeah, here's what I think is going on. First of all, they want you to be on a particular account on a particular device, and it's almost like they want you to get a new phone for every new account that you have, which is ridiculous, of course. I didn't know much about Instagram. You're the one who taught me.
Oh, yeah, I used to know a lot about it and could get it to work for me. And then I started having these problems a couple months ago.
Yeah. So at the time when I was advertising for Audible Vacuum Counting, Kelly Clear did a beautiful reading of Vacuum Counting, and I wanted people to know about it. So I advertised that on my Facebook Vacuum County page. And because I paid for advertising, they asked me, do you want us to open an Instagram account for your Vacuum County page? And I said, okay.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
but then I was never able to post anything on there with my phone because my phone was always logged into my personal Katz account.
Mhm.
So I used to be able to go into my computer and look at my vacuum counting account, but and I could like other people's stuff on Instagram using my vacuum county account on my computer, but I could not post any pictures because it said that a computer can't do that. Only a phone can. Okay, so that's how it was for the longest time until maybe 2 days ago. I don't know, maybe it was only one day ago. It was really recent. Um, I suddenly entered Instagram through my vacuum county page. There was a link to Instagram there. And when I
Mhm.
entered that way, all of a sudden it was like I'm Alice in Wonderland in a different world. It's not Aya Katz anymore that I represent. When I do something there, I'm Vacuum County. So,
Yeah, this is kind of what's happening to me too, but the account that it wants me to post to all the time is definitely not like it was just an account that I made for a particular YouTube channel. It's not an account where I want to be like my whole presence. So at that point, the app has become almost useless to me, really.
it's really weird that they can decide that for you. Shouldn't you be able to decide which account you want to use?
I should, but I think I know why because it's the hair Instagram, and they probably can see like it got a lot of followers really quick. It became so much more popular than my regular Instagram. So I don't know. I almost feel like they just decided, oh well, it looks like you got a lot of traffic on this one. This should be your main account now. But that wasn't my main account, and I just want my old Sweet Berries Instagram back. But if I'm using the app, it just won't let me in anymore. It says no. It just keeps reverting back to the hair one. So if I go on the phone, I can post like a picture, but I can't see if anybody sent me a message or anything. It's just it's become almost useless. So I'd have to buy other devices, and I'm not going to do that. So I decided, well, I'll just post to the Facebook fan pages I have, and Instagram I rarely post to anymore for this reason.
Yeah, but it's strange that they can just change their algorithm and all of a sudden something that you know how to do, you can no longer do.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to do that. I think they just decided they want one account per device. And they found out people were switching accounts because there were articles on that. I learned how to do it. It was pretty easy. And then just one day, the ability to do that has kind of gone away from me. So, oh well, I mean, I just don't. I wasn't getting lots of traffic from Instagram anyway, like I was previously, but then it just kind of changed and I haven't found it as useful anymore. So I'm just kind of leaving it alone at the moment.
Well, I still haven't really learned what use it is because for business purposes, I mean,
Well,
what
I think through Zazzle a few years ago when I used to do a lot of Zazzle and posted a lot of it to Instagram, I won some contests via Zazzle for things I shared that I created. I seem to have sold some things like I feel like I got some traffic to my Zazzle for it. But then when I kind of stopped being as active in the Zazzle community on Instagram, that kind of just went away. So after that, I haven't really seen much merit to it anymore. I don't know. It's just, I think Instagram's kind of just its own platform. If you're a very large social media influencer, maybe you're getting some use out of it. But in my case, I'm just not seeing much from it anymore.
well, mine is still in that stage where it seems as if people are hoping that I will become their follower if they first of all follow me. And then what happens is if I don't follow them, they unfollow me. And sometimes if I do follow them, they unfollow me and they think they got me, you know?
Yeah, that happens on my main account. The account where that doesn't happen, where it said, this has to be your main account, is the hair account. Because for some reason, if it's a specific topic that people have a lot of interest in, all of a sudden, boom, you get like 200 followers. But that's not an account that I am interested in like posting to all the time. Unless I guess I could change the way I do YouTube with that content. I guess I could. But at the moment, I'm just not motivated to do so.
Right.
I guess I could use it to my favor. I don't know.
I suppose so. Yeah. So I think the personal accounts are all about, are you a popular person? And I'm not. And then the business accounts are supposed to be about selling your business.
But it seems like back in county, all of a sudden, maybe there's some sort of interest in it. If like now, like it's going in and it's like kind of becoming your main one, maybe that's to your advantage. I don't know. Maybe you should just keep posting that one. It's a great, maybe it will be the thing that will get people interested in vacuum county. So maybe there's some,
well, yeah, I'll keep doing it and see what happens. It's just that
not posting content right at the moment.
Well, I'm not posting vacuum county content at the moment. I have old content. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. But anyway, you said that you wanted to talk about a certain concept with us today on the live stream, which is basically the main topic of the video.
Yes. Excuse me.
You okay? Okay.
Yeah. Nassim Taleb talked about the minority rule. You have something there that you want to share about it.
Yeah, I actually did find something in an article, and I can kind of start reading some of it. It's a very long article that kind of meanders. I like how he writes, but maybe I'll just share the first part and then people can read it. So I'll go into screen share, okay?
Okay.
So I always feel like I'm going into some wacky world when I do this. Off I go. Okay, so the article's on Medium. He seems to be very active on this website Medium, which I honestly didn't really follow until I found some of his articles there. So the most intolerant wins, the dictatorship of the small minority. It says it takes about 27 minutes to read. And I guess it's from the chapter of that book you guys read, The Skin in the Game. So you probably read this already.
Yes, I am familiar with it. I just don't know what the conclusion is. So I'm willing to talk about what it is.
Okay.
So some examples of that are, you would think that for something to be kosher in a country like the United States, that would be a rare occurrence because a very small minority of people want to eat kosher food. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that almost everything is kosher. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at all sorts of foods, they are marked that they are kosher. And that is because people who don't care whether it's kosher or not will still eat it if it's kosher. There are no people who go around saying, well, I won't eat that if it's kosher. But there are people who say, I will not eat that if it's not kosher. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. It's like a minority. They're kind of controlling what the food consumption is. I would say it's kind of the same with halal. And I could be totally wrong, Aya, but from what I've read and heard, halal and kosher food preparation is pretty much similar. Is that correct?
Yeah, you haven't stopped screen sharing, by the way. So when you talk, we see me on your screen. So you probably want to get out of screen share.
Okay, I'll get out of there. Hold on 1 second. Okay, stop sharing.
Otherwise, we're in a weird universe. We're on both sides of our conversation.
I know. Okay, I got out of there, so we should be okay now.
Yeah. So another example of that is, yes, halal and kosher are about the same. They work the same way. So the minority refuses to eat something. Therefore, the majority says, hey, we don't care if it says that on there or not. So everything becomes kosher. Everything becomes halal, even though a small minority are this intolerant of other foods. But the same example, I mean, if you want something that's not about ethnicity and it's not about religion, then you can see that how the peanut allergy has transformed food in the schools in the United States. Because, 100 years ago, nobody was allergic to peanuts. I don't really understand why suddenly.
I don't understand either, like what happened. I have some theories. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but it seems to have coincided with the time that they stopped like having like real peanut butter. Like remember for a while, like peanut butter was hydrogenated oil with a little bit of peanuts in it. And I almost wonder, like, I could be totally wrong, but when my mom was young, and I'm sure, like, I don't know what kind of peanut butter you had, but did you have like the real peanut butter that was ground from the peanuts?
Well, I thought it was, but I didn't see how. I mean, my mother didn't make it.
I'm sure you did if you had it in Israel at all. Like most people have just like ground peanuts, but I
Yeah.
don't understand where the allergy came from. But all of a sudden, a large part of the population is allergic to peanut butter, and I would love to know
Okay.
what happened.
First of all, it is not a large part of the population, and this is part of
Not,
the fallacy. It is a tiny minority of the population who are allergic to peanuts. The problem is that this allergy is fatal.
mm-hmm,
It's such an extreme allergy, but very, very few individuals have it.
mm-hmm,
Those individuals who have it, if they eat even something that minutely touched a peanut, they will die
wow.
even without major medical intervention. So what happened was, as the schools became aware that there was a problem like this, they thought, well, better safe than sorry. How are we to know if this child is allergic to peanuts or not? How are we going to, we're making food for everybody. How do we keep peanuts, how do we keep the allergic child out of everybody else's food? Children like to share food with other children, so on and so forth. And so what happened was they banned peanuts from the school. And even if you have a perfectly healthy child who is not allergic to
Mm-hmm.
peanuts, you send your child to school with a peanut butter sandwich. So that's pretty, you see, it has nothing to do with religious intolerance,
Oh no.
but it is a form of
Yeah, it
intolerance.
definitely is because I hate to say it, but what if you're a vegetarian, you eat peanut butter and that's what you like? It's like they're telling you no, you can't have that anymore. Or just what if you're a kid that likes peanut butter? What if you're one of those tan eaters? Like they are very specific. They can drink things like chocolate milk, they can eat peanut butter, but they like very basic mild foods and now they can't have that because a small group of people are allergic to peanuts. I just don't think that's fair at all, you know?
It's not, and I don't think it should be that way. But the question is, why is it this way? And what can we do to prevent the minority from telling the majority what to do?
It shouldn't be this way. I don't think. I don't see how some kids eating a peanut butter sandwich at school is going to impact the kid that is allergic. I think if
Well, it might. Okay, here I'm playing devil's advocate
go
just
ahead.
to show you that this is what the administrators at the school are having to deal with.
Okay.
Okay, so what they're having to deal with is that there are children who like to share their lunch. There are even children who don't like what their mom and dad send with them or don't like what they're told they're supposed to eat, and they will switch meals with other children. And the children might not realize that this could be a matter of life and death in
Yeah.
the peanut allergy. So administrators who really don't know how to have absolute control over what goes on during lunchtime, among the small children are worried and they just want to avoid liability. And the other side of the problem is the parents could sue if they lost a child just because there was peanut butter in the cafeteria. They would sue and the entire school would go bankrupt.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that is an issue. To me, though, I feel like the solution could be if this child is so severely allergic to nuts, they should know from a young age, they should have like some sort of guidance that during lunch, this child like should be with, I hate to say it, should be like with some sort of teacher's aide or something, or they can eat their lunch separately and then go play with the kids later. And that might seem like they're punishing the kid with the allergy, but on the other side of the token, I feel like anybody who likes peanut butter is getting punished because this is how far it went, Aya. I read this blog where this parent whose child had a peanut allergy said that this other parent was excluding their child because they like to make peanut butter cookies and they didn't invite the child with the allergy to the birthday party. And the parent whose child had the allergy said, well, they should have just changed whatever they were going to make so that my child could go. And I thought, well, this seems odd and it's going too far, because now you're telling other people they can't have a party outside of school, like with friends and a food that they like, because the child who had the allergy wasn't invited to the party because the parent was worried that, you know, or they didn't want to. And I just thought that was taking it a bit too far, you know?
Yeah,
like
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I, you know, the fact that Nassim Taleb pointed this out, I agree with everything that he said. But here's the thing that I don't know. So this is a question. It's not an answer. It's a question. And then just take your time and think about it. And I don't have an answer. It's not like I have an answer in the back of my head and I'm toying with this. But I honestly don't know. What should we do to prevent this from happening? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Well, I can't give you an answer per se, and I guess schools have to cover their bases. They have to think legally. But it just seems like, okay, so next year though, what is it that somebody's going to be allergic to that's banned then? And then how many things do?
Yeah,
I don't know. This is probably why people don't want their kids to go to public school anymore. And I was in public school, but I'll be honest with you, the public school we went to was a lot different than the run-of-the-mill public school today. Like, our teachers taught us a very creative curriculum that wouldn't be allowed under the Common Core curriculum. They were thinking outside the box. What we found out later on is a lot of the types of lessons that they created for us and the types of projects they had us do were probably on par with more like private schools, because we were in a very isolated community where people moved here to get away from a lot of like the violence and gang activity that was occurring like down in LA. Like, it was a very isolated place, but today it's kind of like, I don't think it's like that anymore. I'm sure they all are Common Core curriculum. I don't know. Like, it just seems like everything's so regulated now, but I think that made the education system worse. And this is probably why people take their kids out of public school and they want them in a charter school, which might not be always better, but at least you have a little bit more control, I guess, over like allowing your kids to have more creativity. They still have to do Common Core curriculum lessons, but they don't have to be there for like 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get away from the peanut butter example. I wanted to give that peanut butter example just to show that this is an issue that happens even outside of ethnic differences, outside of religious differences. Now let's go back to the religious issue.
Okay, definitely.
And so, okay, when it happens, for instance, that almost everything in the United States that you buy in the grocery store is marked as kosher. I don't think that government intervention had anything to do with that. You know, so for instance, the example with the peanut butter and the school, it's complicated by the fact that this is a public school. It's complicated by the fact that parents could sue the school. So there's a lot of governmental intervention that caused this thing to happen, you know. But I don't think that the FDA is responsible for everything becoming kosher or halal or any of those things on the shelves of the grocery store. I think that what happened was that it was pretty much a free market thing where the manufacturers of the distributed food thought, well, how can we get the most people to buy our product? We want it to appeal to everybody, right?
Yeah, make it the safest possible.
Yeah, so they said, well, nobody seems to care if something is kosher. Nobody says, ooh, it's kosher, I don't want to eat it. But people do say, oh, it's not kosher, I won't eat it. So they decided, okay, we'll go and we'll pay someone to bless it or whatever is required. So it's kosher. And now everybody in the entire market will be able to buy it. So here's what I don't understand. If it really is a free market phenomenon, what could we possibly do about it?
Well, maybe it's not that it's not free market. Maybe it's just that it's a selling point. It's a gimmick in that case, like to make it seem like, oh, this is good for everybody. Like it's good for one group, but then you can kind of play it up like, oh, that's kosher. That's good. Like maybe they saw this as a good selling point for the products. And that's like, well, like kosher salt, for instance, like many people love to buy kosher salt, right?
Yeah.
And they're not kosher.
My question is, I can see that it might be annoying. It annoys me when I read that a product is kosher because, I have a bias against that, but I won't like not buy it just because it says kosher. If it's something that I want to buy, I'll buy it anyway. Right.
To be honest with you, with the kosher thing, I never even really thought about it until I was in high school and people started debating that. And I was like, okay, I don't know. It didn't really it wasn't on my radar until people started talking about it.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. As a beginning reader of Nassim Taleb, I read that and I thought interesting. And then I moved on. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't come to a conclusion. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a valid point, but I didn't get what he wanted us to do about it or what he thought we could do about it.
I kind of think, without having read the whole article, I kind of see where he's going with that. Like, to me, okay. I think I could be totally wrong. I just started reading the article, but I kind of know a little bit about his worldview. I know about the history of Lebanon, which is similar to what happened with, I think what he's saying is why is it all of a sudden that everything has to be halal when in the past, people could just have their own, maybe he feels like it's something that's being imposed upon people without people having the freedom to decide for themselves. That was just kind of the impression I got from it. He feels like we shouldn't have this imposition saying that this has to be halal. It should just be you can eat halal if you want to, but it shouldn't be that this eatery has to be halal. I do know in the UK, and some British people have said this before, they're very upset because, okay, you do have a lot of people that have immigrated to the UK from Muslim majority countries, and there would be these pubs and countries that for years served liquor, and now they say no, that they won't serve liquor anymore because it's a Muslim family that owns the pub, and now it's going to be halal eatery, and people are upset that all of a sudden this pub that they went to for years won't serve liquor to them. But then on the same token, I guess you could go to a different franchise if the family who owns that franchise says they don't want to serve a certain thing. So I don't know, I'm kind of mixed. Does it really matter? If some people decide they want to eat halal and you don't want to eat halal, can you just go somewhere else? I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really get his exact.
Yeah. What you just now described was free market. I mean, if a family bought and then, are you okay?
I'm okay. It's just my webcam dropped. Sorry about that.
Okay. So what I'm saying is if they actually bought the business, they can do whatever they want to with the business. They can turn it into a skating rink. They can turn it into something completely different from a pub. From a libertarian free market perspective, I would understand that they might not want to go to that pub anymore. It's not really a pub if you can't drink alcoholic beverages. That's what a pub is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, but it's not a problem that we have to solve with any kind of measure against a certain ethnic group or immigrants or anything like that, right?
Maybe Nassim Taleb is libertarian on some things, but he's not completely libertarian on other things. I think that's what we keep discovering about him. In some concepts, in some ways, he's very much for the free market economy, but in other ways, it seems like he has a certain bias towards wanting certain policies to be implemented that are not libertarian at all. That's kind of my view of him at the moment.
Well, you see, I wasn't actually offended by anything that I read or heard that he said. So I'm not attacking him right now. I'm asking questions.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out his worldview actually, because I don't
Oh,
quite understand it, I guess is what I'm saying.
right. So after having heard about the minority rule and I listened to it on Audible, I was not offended by anything he said because I didn't understand him to say anything that would be anti-libertarian. I didn't
Okay.
actually hear him say
Oh, he
anything.
didn't say anything.
Like,
Like I told you, I haven't read the
yeah,
whole article. So
yeah.
what I was
So
trying to
I
figure out.
don't know what it's like he brings up this problem. I can see the problem. I can agree it's a problem. And
Mhm.
then I don't see a solution. But some other people have said to me, well, the obvious solution is this. And how can you not see that? And I don't see it because
Well,
I don't know.
what was their solution? Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, what did they say what the solution was, just so I
Well,
can.
one person suggested the solution would be segregating neighborhoods so that different
Oh,
people would who like
no,
different stuff would do different things. But
no,
I don't think he said that. I
I don't
don't.
think he said that at all. Okay, I don't think he said that at all because I think, okay, I could be wrong. Maybe he's just like sharing his viewpoint on how he doesn't really care for something to be imposed, but he's not really saying that you have to do anything about it. Could that just be, maybe he's just sharing his view on this and he thinks, well, it kind of annoys me, but I don't think he's saying that we have to do anything specific about it. Could that be what he's saying?
Well, yeah, I don't know. The truth is that maybe I didn't listen very carefully. It wasn't audible. I read better with my eyes than with my ears. I may have been doing something else while I was listening to that part. I
Mm-hmm.
may need to actually get the book and read it with my eyes or just look at that article online. But this is my question. Knowing that this minority effect happens and it's real, it's a real phenomenon. What can we do about it in the free market without violating any person's rights? That's what I would like to know.
Well, that's a good question. Um, I'm kind of looking at the article right now because I feel like I kind of have an idea about it, but I really need to like, I feel like I need to read it too because maybe I'm getting an idea about it without having read the whole thing. But here is a paragraph where he says, now consider this manifestation of the dictatorship of the minority in the United Kingdom, where a practicing Muslim population is only 3 to 4%, a very high number of the meat that we find is halal. But here's the thing, okay? I kind of get this now. He kind of doesn't like the fact that things have to be imposed halal, but like what in my opinion, maybe it doesn't really matter because I don't know, like, is it that big of a deal? I don't know.
Here's the issue for me as a libertarian.
Yeah.
If it's imposed by the government, that's wrong. If it's just a question of the manufacturers of the food wanting to sell food to the most people, then it's not wrong.
Oh, wait, it is imposed by the government because as I keep reading the article, close to 70% of the lamb imports from New Zealand are halal. And it sounds like this is kind of a government thing because why is it so much of it is halal that's being imported to New Zealand? That's interesting. Like, to me, I'm going to be really honest with you. That does kind of sound like a government. If they're like, if such a large, why is so much of it halal? That's
Well,
interesting.
I mean, here's the question. The
Yeah.
people who are going to sell this meat, the wholesalers, not the retailers.
Yeah.
Wholesalers, who are they going to sell it to? The retailers, who are they going to sell it to? Now, I understand that only a minority wants the food to be halal, but for it to be there at all and to buy it in quantity, if all of it is halal, then everybody in the UK or wherever it is that it's going to is going to be able to buy that meat.
Yeah, exactly. But they're also saying in the article, as I continue reading, okay, close to 10% of the chain Subway carry halal only stores, meaning no pork. In spite of the high cost from the loss of business of non-pork stores, the same holds true in South Africa with the same proportion of Muslims. A disproportionately higher number of chicken is halal certified. like it's certified. That sounds like that's a government
No, no,
certification.
no, 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 no. I
It's not.
think you're misunderstanding. Both
Okay.
halal and kosher are things that are certified by religious
Well,
pontiffs.
independent.
So for something to be kosher, it has to be, number one, slaughtered a certain way and not another way. And
Yeah.
number two, blessed by a rabbi.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
Okay. And I think I don't know as much about halal, but I think it's the same thing.
It's the
Uh,
same thing. They
it's
say a
it's
prayer.
a method of butchering, plus it's a blessing by somebody. Okay,
Okay.
so it's a very religious, very bureaucratic religious thing, but it is not the government of the UK. It's the rabbinate or the I don't know what it's called on the other side. What is the cleric called in Islam? A mullah?
Imam usually,
Imam. Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. So one of those people. So I don't think the certification that we're talking about is government
So
certification.
it's just like a religious one, but it does seem like, okay, he's also talking about how in the 7th century there was a Christian Arab poet that was opposed to eating halal because he felt like it was some sort of Islamic imposition. So it seems like he's just talking, like, I don't know, this is just his personal bias. Like he just doesn't really agree with halal. So maybe this
No,
is
no,
just
I don't think he agrees or disagrees. I honestly, to be fair to him, to
okay.
Nassim Taleb, I didn't hear him agreeing or disagreeing. He's just saying, look, the minority are imposing their wishes on the majority. And
Okay.
I agree with that. That's true. And I understand that. But the question is, how are they doing it? If in my opinion, as a libertarian, if
Hmm.
they're doing it through government force, that's wrong and we should stop it.
Okay.
They're doing it through market forces. I don't think that we're allowed to say anything about. I mean, we can talk about it, but we can't do anything about it.
Okay. Well, then maybe it's a non. I I don't know. Is it even that big of a deal then? If it's just maybe it's not that big of a deal. I don't know. I don't know what to say then. Like,
Right. It's kind of like this. Let's put it this way. Let's say there's a dress code in your restaurant or in your hotel or whatever, no shoes, no shirt, no service.
yeah,
If that dress code is imposed by the proprietor, by the owner of the business, it's perfectly okay. If it's imposed by the government, that's a completely different issue.
so it's kind of seems like there's no government imposition on any of these halal or kosher products. It's just a phenomenon. So maybe it's not. I to me maybe it's a non-issue a little bit.
Uh, I think that Nassim Taleb is trying to warn us about something. And I don't want to close my ears. I don't want to say, oh, just because I'm a libertarian, I won't pay attention to what you're saying.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I'm reading more of the article because this is like the first time I've really read much of what he said on this. Like, I'm just because you have read more of like what he says on this topic, so I'm really just coming to this with a very fresh perspective.
No, that's good. That's good. And I might have somewhat of a closed mind because I've realized that my interpretation of what he said is different from some other people. So
I mean, I don't even know if I have an opinion because, like, when it comes to halal and kosher, I don't eat meat, so I don't really care either way. And that sounds horrible. Like, I'm not like a militant vegan. I don't tell people not to eat meat, but on the same token, I don't like honestly. Like, if it's halal or kosher, I'm like, I don't know. I don't really care. But
right.
this other thing he's saying though is interesting. In the U.S. and Europe, organic food companies are selling more and more products precisely because of the minority rule and because ordinary and unlabeled foods may be seen by some to contain pesticides, herbicides. But then again, it's like he's kind of questioning GMOs, but on the same token, I kind of like things that are GMO free. So I don't know if I completely agree with what he's saying because, like, I don't like genetically modified foods. And that's actually something I kind of agree with. Like, if possible, I do want to buy things that But then do we know like what's not genetically modified? We don't really know like everything that goes on in the food chain anymore unless you grow everything yourself.
Right. No, no, I think actually, I heard him talking against genetically modified food, not on the basis that he knows that there's something wrong with it, but he says there's a huge difference between the selective process that we used up to this point, where
Mm-hmm.
we would breed a certain kind of animal or a certain kind of plant by selection. So we were using unnatural selection, but it was just like natural selection, and it would just over generations they would change. Whereas GMO, you're actually going in there and you're modifying the genetic material
Mm-hmm.
and introducing maybe animal things into plant things and so on and so forth. It's
Yeah.
really crazy. And we can't possibly know what the result of that would be because there hasn't been enough time for us to test these things. And so he says we should be much more careful. And it isn't the same as what we've done up till now when we were breeding foods that we liked. So I don't think that he's talking in favor of GMOs. I don't think that's what he's
Okay.
saying.
I'm reading more of it now. It's saying it goes on and on. Like I kind of would have had to have read a lot of this before we started talking about it because he goes into a lot of depth about things, but I don't really know everything how he's coming towards it. And to be honest with you, just reading it right now, it's kind of not exactly clear. But
I
that's
it is clear. Yeah, I think there's a lot of texture that is what I would call open texture in what he's saying.
mm-hmm.
Um, so that it is open to interpretation in more than one way.
That's fine. Yeah. It's just like you would have to sit here and read this whole article to kind of he's going on he talks a lot about it. Like he's talking about more non-GMO things. Like I would have had to have read this whole article before. That's interesting though. It's here to read for anybody that's interested.
Right. I intend to do that.
Yeah, I should have read it before. But honestly, I think he's a very interesting person. I just haven't read much. Like I've read a few of his articles and I do agree with some of the things he said. I just haven't read his books the way that some of you have, or you understand more of what he's talking about in depth.
Right. But I'm not an expert on him and I still don't understand. And I would just love to have him on our program so he could tell us himself.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Huh. This is an interesting article, but it's got a lot. There's a lot to it. It's not just one thing. Like he can go back and forth between, and then he's bringing up the canon. Like, wow, he goes from this to that. Like, I really like how he can like be all over
Right.
and do that. That's pretty impressive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you really want to think about it, what happened in the temple, um, in the temple of David, where they threw out all the other, all the other gods, other gods were in there. And it's actually the priests of Jehovah who were intolerant. They were a minority and they threw out all the other idols, okay, all the other gods. And so really that's an example of intolerance leading to, having a monopoly on something.
Mm-hmm. That definitely would be. And like, is there a modern day parallel? Would you say to that?
I think he's trying to lead us to one, but I honestly don't understand what we could do about it. Because if it's a natural process, like a natural social process, that more intolerance will lead to getting more converts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we can do about it.
Yeah, if yeah, it's an interesting open-ended kind of discussion. I have to say this though, like since I haven't read a lot of things that he did in depth, and even if I did read it, it just seems like he's very philosophical. I don't know if I could take a position exactly about what he's talking about. He just seems to talk about many different things. I'd have to read more of him, and I haven't. So that's all
Right.
I can say about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I do have a position. My position is I can see that there is an advantage sometimes to being intolerant.
Hmm.
I would like to live in a society that is free and where uh, tolerance wins out without force. If you see what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. Like, where, okay, we all have our personal bias, but I think the problem is right now, like, we're being forced to, like, try and be friends with, like, everybody. But as long as we're not hurting other people or being malicious to other people, it's okay for us to maybe, like, have a bias to have certain friends. Like, well, for example, I guess we could use the school example. Like, why can't friends be sitting together in class? But now, like, they want to make the kids who are not friends not be together, kind of thing. Like, I don't think we have to be friends with everybody. We just don't have to be hurtful to everybody. Like, we can have our own personal preferences for certain people that we're friends with. That is an example, in my opinion.
Yes, and we're still allowed to do that. If the government came around and said you are not allowed to have any friends, then that's not okay. Uh, Unfortunately, the government does run most of the schools.
Mm-hmm.
We should just stop allowing the government to have money to fund the schools, and then things that go on in the schools will be what people in their local communities want done. So
That's a good, I mean, that's a good place to start. Like, and it seems like a lot of libertarians are in favor of, like, doing away with public education, right? Like mandatory public education.
yes, absolutely. It shouldn't be mandatory and it shouldn't be paid for by taxes. And then anybody who wants any kind of education can get it on the free market, either by teaching their own kids or sending their kids to a private school.
Well, it seems like to me I think it's really interesting. I don't really have kids, so I can't really say like how I would feel about that precisely. But if I did have kids and just seeing how I feel that they spend their tax dollars, and right now with everything going on in the news with the whole controversy about, do we support Trump for the wall or do we hate him because of the wall? What if we just didn't have those taxpayer dollars to give him the power and these other politicians the power
Okay.
to do that,
Yeah,
right?
but did you hear what he just recently did? He declared an emergency and he
Yes,
thinks,
I did. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
yeah, he can get everything he wants just because he calls it an emergency that he wasn't able to get it through Congress.
Wow. I know, that's ridiculous. But I don't think you have to be a Democrat to know that. Like, do you have to be like all anti-Trump to know that?
Well, I'm hoping that Trump supporters call him on this.
Well, they should. They should. I'm not pro-Trump. Definitely not. But I think it's a bigger issue that we've been kind of leading up to this point because, like, let's be real, like, there were things Obama did that I didn't agree with either. And he was overstepping his presidential powers with the
Absolutely.
drone. And we didn't really call him out on that because people liked Obama and he was very articulate, and they never really called him out on that, you know?
Well, we should call anyone out on it who is overstepping the bounds of his constitutional power.
We should, but there were Democrats that loved him and they still saw him as like this pro peace president, and they never agreed with him on that, but they never really said anything about it. But if it had been Dick Cheney doing the same thing, oh my God, like they would have been protesting in the, it's just, it was kind of, I just thought that was interesting. I think we've led up to this point where if he has the ability to do that, we've kind of set up the presidency to go this way where we've created this system where we're just so invested in party politics that I don't know, like, okay, he did that, but it's interesting. So what do you think about it, Aya? Like what should, from a libertarian perspective?
It's not an emergency. He should just knock it off, really seriously. And
Yeah,
I think the Supreme Court should rule on that.
for sure. But yeah, it's interesting. But I also feel like on the same token that's all they ever want us to talk about anymore. Like there are a lot of other issues going on politically, and we never talk about anything else except for what he's saying all the time.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't allow anybody to do anything unconstitutional. And every single time something unconstitutional is done, we need to push it back. You know,
Hmm.
I think, for instance, that U.S. Fish and Wildlife deciding as an agency that chimpanzees born in and raised in the United States by human beings and were never wild are an endangered species in the United States. That's ridiculous. The only thing that endangers chimpanzees in the United States is that kind of decision on the part of U.S. Fish and Wildlife, because it's making it very hard for breeders to breed.
Yeah, exactly. And
So I don't think that I'm just talking about what Trump did today or yesterday or whenever he did it. I think anytime we see that something is unconstitutional, we, the people, need to put a stop to it.
yeah, for sure. And it's many different things, but I don't know, like I'm not pleased with like his decision, but I feel like on the same token, we kind of have set up the presidency to go in this direction. It was just a matter of time before there was a president who did something like
Okay,
that.
it's an unraveling of the constitutional setup in the United States. And yeah, everything has led to this, but we can't let this happen.
No, we can't. Definitely not. I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree at all. It's ridiculous. Like, but what I don't understand is like all his supporters, like they don't seem upset that he's wasting so much money on these things that don't work in the first place. You
Yeah,
know?
I don't know what the benefit of any of this is. I don't see why they're not just, if they would just do away with welfare, then they wouldn't have to be afraid of freeloaders coming into the country. You know, you see what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying, but it's also like recently, like the thing in California that kind of just surprises me is there's like a lot of fallacies that that undocumented workers are the ones who commit the most crimes, and we know that's not true. There's a lot of people in our own country who commit crimes that are born here, and it's just strange. Like I just hear a lot of like xenophobic things and just things that aren't so I kind of try to stay away from, like, it's not that I don't want to follow what he's doing, but on the same token I think both sides are feeding this fire and nobody's really having a solution that's viable at the moment. To me, like, I don't see the Democrats proposing anything that's going to make the solution better. Like,
No, they're all on a course to take the union apart. I mean, that's really what it is. It's uh, instead of going back in time and undoing every single unconstitutional thing that was done all the way back to, you know, the income tax, that they're fighting for the right for the president to declare there's an emergency and he can take people's land around the border so he can build his wall without, you know, without their permission.
it's really horrible. And the fact that, well, one thing his supporters should know is that Mexico will never pay for that wall, and they're under no obligation to do so. With international law, the border wall has to be 2 miles from the legal border. It does go through private people's property. It doesn't keep anybody out because you can drive over it, dig through it. It causes more illegal activity. But there's a lot of people that think, oh, because this wall is happening, that we're safer. It's ridiculous. It's like a circus to me. And then all the people who really, really hate him, I don't know, like they make it their life's effort. Like, I don't like what he's doing. I don't think it's constitutional. But there are people, they're like saying he's ruined my life personally. I don't know. I think that's taking it a bit far. How has he ruined your life personally? I don't know.
Well, unless he's actually taken away your property, which is at the border, then probably not. But no, I don't take it personally.
Not you. I'm talking about Democrats. Like, there are Democrats, like they're saying, well, this is just another example of how he's personally ruined my life. I don't know. That's the thing that kind of like, okay, I understand that politics are very important, and I do like a lot of the libertarian positions, but right now, both sides of the dichotomy, like being that politically invested, how does it help you have a job, pay the bills, do things in life? Like most people are just getting really turned off by this. I do like the libertarian stance that we need to go back and undo all the damage, but I don't see how anybody can have the energy and time to follow like the Democratic political side or the Trump loving political side. Like these people seem to have given up their lives for like some sort of political religion, really. And they have a lot of energy to do so that I guess I don't have.
Well, I don't have that energy either. So,
But I just don't understand, where do they get the energy? Like, how can you, I don't know. Like, it's not making things better because I don't see either of them offering a solution. There's no solution on either side. Like, and that's the thing that really bothers me about it, you know?
yeah. Well, I mean, again, I don't have an answer except that I wish everybody were libertarian and then they wouldn't act that way.
Well, if we had actual libertarian solutions, so why don't we just say that they shouldn't have the taxes to be able to do that? They shouldn't have the authorization and the power to do that. We need to take that away from him. He shouldn't have the ability to do that constitutionally. That's unconstitutional, right? And that's the bottom line.
That's our bottom line. And you know, 90% of the bureaucracy that we currently have, if not 100%, is unconstitutional. So, yeah, we're not going to solve this today.
I know I'm just going off on a tangent, but it's just, it pops up and I see like, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know. I guess it's just me. Like, I guess I just kind of have to be like, this is just the world we live in now. And I don't agree with this, but I do like the libertarian perspective. I just don't know, like politically, if I'm going to be invested in much anymore because of all this, like where we're going. Like, I commend those who are, but I just don't feel like I am anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to continue to hope that our channels grow and that we're able to get some people to talk to, such as Nassim Taleb, on our show, who might offer tangible solutions to these problems.
Okay, sounds good to me. So that was an interesting discussion. Thanks for sharing all that, Aya.
Well, thank you, Julia, and thanks for helping me to look up that article. And I will go back and read that and hopefully also share a link down below for it.
Okay, well, have a wonderful afternoon, okay?
Okay, you too. Bye, Julia.